Good evening guys, I am Ilangovan, online axi.com and personal for teaching zoology. So we have actually studied something about the various types of cells in the past classes. Now let us pass on to the next one, something about the next level in the organization. See, there is an organization in the hierarchy. Starting from the cell, we have the tissues, the organs, organ systems, and finally we have the organism. So there is a hierarchy in the organization of an animal or any plant body. So we have the organization starting with actually the cells, then we have the tissues, then the organs, organ systems, and finally the whole organism. So the functional aspect of each and every organism is the collective effect of or the sum total of all the animal cells or any plant cells, etc. And finally also the tissues actually formed because of the collection of many cells that are performing different functions. Now we'll see one by one about the various aspects of the tissues. Now here given actually you see that one in the case of all multicellular animals, there is an organizational hierarchy. You know the meaning of hierarchy. A stepwise actually classification is normally called as hierarchy. So in the case of all multicellular animals, we have a stepwise organizational hierarchy. Starting from the basic unit, namely the cells we see. And the cells are collected together to form the tissues. A number of tissues are organized to form an organ. And a number of organs together form the organ systems, an example of the digestive system or respiratory system, circulatory system and so on. And all these organ systems collected together to form the entire animal of just any living being. So this is what we call this one, organizational hierarchy. Organizational hierarchy. This is called organizational hierarchy. Organizational hierarchy. So, and now let us take actually the second level in the organizational hierarchy, namely the tissues. So what do you mean by a tissue? What do you mean by a tissue? So we are having specific fields in biology. See the study of plants, the study of animals, what we can say the external appearance, the study of external appearance, the study of cell, what we call this one cytology. Likewise the branch of science dealing with the different tissues, the study of different tissues. By using what is called microscopy is called histology. This is called histology. This is called histology. So the study of tissues with the help of microscope by making slices of any animal organ, and that field is called histology. So what do you mean by actually a tissue system? So a tissue is normally a group of cells or a layer of cells. And these cells have been derived from actually the same ancestral cell. That's why we can say same origin. So similar in origin. Similar in origin actually. And those actually group of cells which have been developed from a same type of germinal layer. What we call this one either ectoderm, endoderm or mesoderm. And that is what is called similar in embryonic origin. And more or less the structural aspects also similar in such organisms. Actually if you are taking any tissue having similar origin, similar structure and also they are performing similar function and same function. So origin wise similar, structural wise similar and function wise similar. So there are also certain exceptions, you know that one. So if you take any tissue, it's a collection of many cells. The cells are linked together by means of a substance, physically linked together by means of some substance between the cells, what we call this one, intercellular substance. Intercellular substance. So actually the intercellular substance is nothing but a thin layer of something between actually the cells responsible for cementing the cells together. So anyway, a tissue is nothing but a collection of cells or a layer of cells. And the cells are linked together by means of some intercellular substance. And all these cells more or less have the same origin, derived either from ectoderm or endoderm or mesoderm. And also having same basic structure. And also performing some same function. Say an example in the muscle tissue. The function of the muscle tissue, you know that one, the contractile nature. Its ability to contract, responsible for the movement of the organism. And even the nerve cells enabling the organisms to just respond to the stimuli and also responsible for the coordination of the different activities. So this is what we can say some common function. Same origin, same structure and same function. But there are exceptions. Suppose if we are taking the blood, it is a liquid tissue just like a liquid mercury, the liquid metal, you know that one, liquid metal. So in the case of blood, actually it is found of different types of cells, RBCs, WBCs, platelets. So we have different cells that are accumulated together but performing one common function or maybe a different function. So they are all responsible for circulation. For example, RBC is doing its own function of transport of gases. Then WBCs are acting as soldiers of the body, giving defense mechanism. And like that we have other platelets taking part in blood coagulation. And similarly another type of tissue, what we have, the connective tissues. The connective tissues are also made up of different types of cells performing different functions. For example, formed of fibroblasts, mast cells, histiocytes. So here the cells are of different types. Either in the case of blood or in the case of connective tissues, the cells are not uniform in their structure, also not uniform in their function, but more or less developed from the same origin. Actually, for example, either from ectoderm or endoderm or mesoderm. Suppose you are taking the connective tissue, it has been originated or developed from the mesodermal tissues. And similarly, the blood is also formed from the mesoderm. So origin wise same, but structurally they are different, but functionally different. But we are grouping all these things together as tissues, though there are certain exceptions, though they are deviating from the central line, the central theme. So that is about what we have. The study of tissue is called histology. The study of tissue actually dealing with the different types of tissues having same origin, same structure and uniform function or same function. Now what are the different types of tissues? This is a general idea, just the flow chart what we have. So normally the animal tissues are classified into 4 categories. We have different actual methods adapted based on their functions. Here based on the structure, there are 4 different types of tissues. Number 1, the epithelial tissue. Number 1, the epithelial tissue. This is the epithelial tissue. This is the epithelial tissue. And now under which we have different categories. Some of them are squamous, some of them are cuboidal, some of them are columnar, some of them are ciliated, and some of them are also actually just glandular in nature. So generally there are 4 different categories of tissues. Number 1, epithelial tissue, and number 2, just actually this muscular tissue, and the third one, that is a connective tissue, and the fourth one, nervous tissue. So we will see the further classification of each type later. So normally if you are taking actually epithelial tissues under which we have different types, ciliated, columnar, cuboidal, then you see that one glandular cells, and like that we have different types. And similarly in the case of muscle tissues, there are 3 different types of tissues. For example, striated, non-striated and also cardiac. And if you are taking the connective tissue, they are also considered as a supporting tissue generally speaking, and which includes for example areolar, supporting, adipose tissue, skeletal and also what is called the fluid connective tissue. Say an example of the blood and lymph. And the fourth one, nervous tissue. The one which is normally responsible for actually the coordination and also responding to the stimuli, responsible for responding to the stimuli and also for coordinating the various activities. So generally speaking, we have 4 different groups of tissues based on the origin and structure. Number 1, epithelial tissue, number 2, muscular tissue, number 3, the connective tissue, and number 4, the nervous tissue. So we will discuss one after another about each category, the structural aspect, the location and also their functions. Now to start with, you see that one I mentioned already, the study of tissue is called histology. That word was first actually used by Mayer. The histology, the word was used by Mayer, and the word tissue was used by Bichette. And these 2 persons normally conducted actually many experimental analysis, staining the cells, making slices of the organs, staining procedure adapted and then observed under microscopy, and just use the term tissue, and also just Bichette use what is called, Mayer use the term histology and Bichette use the term tissue. So what I represented earlier just in the colorful flow picture, the flow chart, and I am just being repeated here. So according to their origin and functions, well I mentioned already, origin and functions, the mode of origin. So we have four different categories. And before starting that one, if we are taking actually the study of development of an organism, and we have different stages. For example, you have fertilization process. After that, we have received zygote, a single cell, which divides into a ball-like structure, what is called blastula, of all more or less equal in nature. There is no differentiation. The next stage we have proceed towards, for example, the gastrulation process. There you have the formation of the three germinal layers. We are using the word three germinal layers, or simply we have the germ layers or germinal layers. The meaning for that one, the various organs and organ systems. For example, the skin, the heart, you have the stomach. So all these structures have been originated only from these primordial what is called germinal cells. So in the development, during one stage what is called gastrula, so in that gastrula, there are three different layers, and these layers are called the embryonic germinal layers. They are named so: ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. So we have outer ectoderm, middle mesoderm and inner endoderm. This is what we have during the development of an individual. So this is the first stage during the gastrulation process, the three germinal layers. They are called so because these are all the layers giving rise to various organs and organ systems. For example, if you are taking the ectoderm, it gives rise to your skin, the nervous system, the sense organs, etc. Even some of the epithelial tissues. And if you are taking, for example, just actually the kidneys, the heart, then the circulatory system, even the muscles, the bones, they have developed from the mesoderm, the middle layer. And if you are taking, for example, just actually the digestive system, and some of the, for example, the endocrine glands, and even for the lungs and gills in the case of animals. So the respiratory organs, all these organs being developed from the endoderm. So anyway, these are all actually the stages during which various organs and organ systems being developed, and that phenomenon is called organogenesis. So during organogenesis, what will happen to begin with? We have formed the different types of tissues later organized to form the organs. And these tissues have been originated from the various germinal layers. So based on the origin only, this is the classification actually had been made. That is, we have the epithelial tissue, the connective tissue is also called as supporting tissue. You will see later why is it called as supporting tissue, then muscular tissue and nervous tissue. So here represented, you see that one, epithelial tissues have been originated either from ectoderm or from mesoderm or from endoderm. So the epithelial tissues has the power, actually the tissue has the power of originating from all the three germinal layers. And if we are taking the connective tissue, the one which is a supportive connective tissue, or also called simply supportive tissue, and that one is evolved or originated from the mesoderm. They are mesodermal in origin. And even if you are taking the muscle tissue, the bone tissue, they have been originated from the mesoderm, even the blood also. But whereas the nervous system is purely developed from the ectoderm. So the brain, the spinal cord, you have the different, for example, the organs related to the eyes, ears, except one or two structures, and most of the structures of the nervous tissue have been originated only from the ectoderm. Now let's see one by one. Now here is given actually a tabular column, a simple tabular column showing the different types of tissues and their functions. Now I mentioned that is the epithelial tissues. Normally these tissues are found in lining the cavities, also found on the surface of actually the organs and totally on the surface of the body of an organism. See, it covers the body surfaces, lines the body, and also actually lines the body cavities. For example, if you take the digestive system, the cavity or the lumen of the intestine is covered. Or the stomach, if you are taking, that is covered with one type of epithelial tissue, what is called the columnar. Or if you are taking, for example, the salivary gland ducts, etc. And also covers the body, for example, your skin is formed of epidermis. That epidermis is formed of a number of actually cells. They arrange together to form a layer. So anyway, the epithelial tissue's main function, they are concerned with covering actually the whole body surface, lining what is called the internal body cavities. Then coming to the connective tissue. So it is the one normally responsible for binding the various organs inside the body. For example, loose connective tissue or areolar connective tissue. We have different organs inside the body. And these organs are being placed at or are kept constantly. Whether you are upside down, whether you are running or whether you are swimming. In all cases, the organs are not being disturbed. This is because actually all the organs are bound together by means of connective tissue. So its main function, number one, binding. And number two, support. Number two, support. For example, the bones and cartilages. So these are all the supportive tissues. Even for example, our bones are joined together by means of ligaments. Or the muscles are connected to the bones by means of what are called the tendons. So they are responsible for supporting the whole body for the movement or bearing the weight of the body, etc. So connective tissue is meant for binding as well as for supporting. Now the muscular tissue. We know that one without which we cannot move. The one which normally enables us to move. So mainly concerned with the movement of the body, the movement of the structures. Is concerned with the movement as well as actually just normally the movement of the entire structure within the organs, actually within the body, because the organs are able to move. Even for example, the pumping action of the heart. This is also one type of movement, vital organ that is responsible for pumping the blood. And likewise also it enables us to move. The skeletal system along with the muscular system is helping us to move. So that is why it is responsible for the movement of the structures within the body, and also as a whole the organism is able to move with the help of this muscular tissue. Then the nervous tissue. So you are responding to different stimuli. So this is what we call this one, the response. The responses. So the response is actually, for example, when you are touching a hot object, you are responding to that one, just jerking away the hand from that stimulus. That is called as a stimulus. The reaction shown by you is nothing but the response. So the stimulus is nothing but a change in the environment. Something happens in the environment. Even if you are actually just stung by honeybee, that is also a change. Even if you are just actually stung by or just actually bitten by cobra, that is also a change. And even you are beaten by your mother or father, it is also a change. That is called as a stimulus. Anything which stimulates to you to show a kind of reaction, and that is actually because of the nervous tissue. So that is, you are responding to that one. And also we have different functions in the body, and all the functions being coordinated, integrated together because of the nervous tissue, and also another system what is called, actually we can say, the chemical coordination brought about by the hormones secreted by the glands, that too from the epithelial tissue, the glandular tissue. So anyway, the nervous tissue is responsible for responding to the stimuli and also for coordinating the various activities. Then muscle tissue is responsible for actually for the movement of the internal organs and also enabling you to move the whole body. Then the connective tissue, the binding tissue, binding the different organs, so that only we are keeping all the organs intact without moving. Even while just fast running or swimming, or even if you are upside down, there is no change in the position of the organ. This is because of the connective tissue, a binder. And also it supports, for example, the bone. It is an example for connective tissue. The cartilage. So it is supporting you to stand, it is supporting you to run, it is supporting you to swim. And the epithelial tissue, the main one concerned with the protection, covering the whole body or covering the entire organs or even lining the cavities. So these are the general functions. We have to go deep into to study the specific functions of each an organ and actually each tissue. Let's go to it. Now epithelial tissue. So I mentioned earlier the flow chart also I represent. And it is the only tissue which has originated from all the three types of germinal layers. See that one? They may be formed from any one of the three embryonic germ layers. Three embryonic germ layers. They are nothing but ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. It is the only tissue which has developed from all the three germinal layers. And some of them, not all the epithelial tissues are developed from all the three layers. So any time, we can say any one type of epithelial tissue can develop either from ectoderm or from endoderm or from mesoderm. We will see one by one the examples also. Now, when I am taking the epithelial cells, The cells are normally arranged in a single layer or in many layers. They are arranged close together without any intercellular spaces. Between the cells we don't have any, just actually any intercellular space. The cells are tightly packed. So that is why I say there is no intercellular substance between the epithelial cells normally. So normally these cells form a continuous layer covering all the free surfaces of the body and its organs and line the cavities what I represent already in the flow chart and also the tabular column, just what we call the different function aspects. Now when they are taking the nature, these are all some of the characteristics. Number one, they develop either of these three germinal layers. Number two, they form a continuous layer without any intercellular spaces, and normally they are covering the free surface of the body or organs or even the cavities they are lining. So the cells may be living or dead. See, if you are taking the epidermis, in the case of human body, if you take the skin, the uppermost layer of the epidermis is called stratum corneum. The uppermost layer of the skin epidermis is called stratum corneum. Stratum corneum. So that is the outermost layer made up of only the dead cells. And if you are taking the innermost layer, then we have what is called stratum germinativum, another layer, the same epidermis. Upper layer is made up of dead cells. The lowermost layer is made up of normally the living cells. That is the nature. So that is why here it is given, it may be living or dead. And I mentioned already just the matrix. What do you mean by matrix? What do you mean by matrix? So the matrix is nothing but a ground substance or any substance on which the cells are actually floating or suspended, or any substance which is being formed between the cells responsible for binding the cells or cementing the cells together, and that is called the matrix. So the matrix, the substance responsible for cementing the cells, is always extremely thin. The amount of substance between the cells is very less, and that is given. So I mentioned earlier, so we have actually the cells may be arranged in one layer or many layers, just like you see that one in a building, we have the bricks are arranged one above the other like that. Or the cells actually only one layer thickness. So all these cells are actually placed one above the other in the case of stratified epithelium. The layer, if you have many layers of cells arranged one above the other, then the layer is called actually that the cell or the tissue is called stratified epithelium. But if the tissue is made up of only one layer, the cells are placed on a membrane. So the name of the membrane on which normally just the cells are placed or anchored, that is normally called as the basement membrane. Basement membrane. This is what is called as a basement membrane, responsible for the secretion of the cells. So actually, responsible for just anchoring the cells. And normally this basement membrane is of protein and lipid complexes secreted by the cells. If the cell is one layer thick, if you have many layers of cells, the lowermost layer of cell is found on the basement membrane. This basement membrane is acting as a connector, connecting or anchoring the epithelial cells to the below lying tissue, what is called the connective tissue. If you have basement membrane, below which mainly you have the connective tissue, above which we have what is called the epithelial tissue. As I mentioned earlier, the chemical composition of the membrane, as in the case of plasma membrane, formed of proteins and carbohydrates, a chemical nature. Then, so I mentioned what is the function of this, actually the basement membrane. It is responsible for anchoring the tissues or the cells, the epithelial structures, to the underlying tissue, namely the connective tissue. So we have basement membrane, above which one or many layers of epithelial tissues, and below the basement membrane we have the connective tissue, to which only the epithelial cells are anchored with the help or connected or fixed with the help of that is the basement membrane. Now one of the striking characteristics of epithelial tissues, normally the cells need nutrients and oxygen for their actually growth, multiplication, to do the function, etc. But in the case of epithelial tissues, actually the nutrients and gases are supplied by the blood vessels. But here, one of the striking characteristics, the epithelial tissues do not contain blood vessels. No blood vessels are found in the case of epithelial tissues. And how do they get their nourishment and gases? They are just drawing the nourishment and gases from the neighboring cells. They are gaining or drawing nourishment and gases, actually the oxygen, from the neighboring cells. One of the characteristics. The same character is also manifested or expressed by the cartilage gold. For example, the yellow is formed of one type of cartilage, elastic cartilage. That cartilage also doesn't contain blood vessels. So if they do not have any blood vessels, the meaning for that one, they can survive by drawing nourishment, that is namely the nutrients, and also gases from the neighboring cells. Don't forget, no blood vessels in the epithelial tissues. Now here is the diagrammatic representation I want to show you. Where are these epithelial tissues normally located? I mentioned already, now this line indicates the total covering of the body. The total covering of the body. This is a whole body. The whole body is covered by a mix of epithelial tissue. I mentioned earlier. Number two, they are also lining the inner cavities, and this one, that is actually the digestive system, the tube. What we have, the tube lining that one. So they are found either on the surface or lining the cavities, or even they are lining actually the internal lining. They are forming the internal lining for the organs. You see that one, the lungs. So the lungs, actually the inner organ, it is being covered by a mix of connective tissue on its outer surface as well as internally the cavity. Likewise, you see that one, the urinary system, the kidneys. Then also the urinary bladder, the urinary tract, and also the reproductive system. You have, for example, the testes, ovaries, and accessory reproductive tracts, all being normally lined with this one. And we have a number of glands. Here I mentioned exocrine glands. So we can have two types of glands. The glands are normally formed of epithelial tissues. One type of gland is called exocrine gland. One type of gland is called endocrine gland. One type is called exocrine, one type is called endocrine. So the exocrine glands are those glands, actually they have the ducts. You'll see later. You see that one, they are opening out. And even if you are taking here the mouth, the salivary gland, what it represents here is nothing but the salivary gland. So, and that one just actually responsible for secreting the saliva, which opens. So such glands normally opening into any cavity or with the duct. Any gland with the duct, they open outside, then they are called exocrine glands. And another one, endocrine glands, you see represented simply, just a gland represented simply. And that one is actually a gland made up of cells, but they do not have any ducts. And their secretions are released into a particular just a blood vessel. Their secretions are released in the blood, and from where they are transported to the corresponding region or the required region. So glands without duct are called endocrine glands. For example, thyroid gland, pituitary gland, thymus gland. So we have different types. And some glands are doing the function of both exocrine and endocrine. Normally the secretions of exocrine glands are called enzymes. The secretions of endocrine glands are called hormones. But one gland is acting as both exocrine and endocrine, namely the pancreas. So the pancreas secretes enzymes as well as hormones. That is the only gland acting as both exocrine as well as endocrine. So these are all actually the diagrammatic representation which shows where all these epithelial cells are located. Even just I mentioned the circulatory system. If I are taking the heart, in the inner lining of the heart we have a layer of cells, what is called endothelium. And similarly, if you are taking the blood vessels, the capillary or the major blood vessels like arteries or veins, they also internally line with some cells, and they are nothing but the epithelial cells. So this is a simple illustration showing the locations of the different epithelial cells, where are they formed. Now, just what are the different types of epithelial tissues? Here is a flow chart. Now, I mentioned earlier, in some cases the epithelial tissue is formed of only one layer of cells. Such a type of epithelium, where the epithelium is made up of only one layer of cells lying on the basement membrane, is called simple epithelium. A simple epithelium is one made up of only one layer of cells. So, which I mentioned just 5 different types of epithelial cells. and based on the shape and the functions. Mainly based on the shape, only here the classification is given. The first one squamous epithelium, the second one cuboidal epithelium, you have columnar epithelium, columnar ciliated epithelium, then finally pseudo-stratified epithelium. So we have columnar, ciliated, cuboidal, then we have for example just actually squamous. It is just like a tiles, and finally you have the pseudo-stratified. I will tell you more about this one later one by one. Then if the epithelial tissue is made up of more than one layer of cells, then it is called a compound epithelium. So if actually the compound epithelium made up of mainly columnar epithelial cells arranged in many layers, then it is called stratified actually squamous epithelium. Stratified actually columnar epithelium, that is missing actually stratified epithelium, the first one. Stratified cuboidal epithelium. Stratified cuboidal epithelium, just actually a word is missing there. So compound epithelium, the first one, stratified cuboidal, made up of cube-shaped cells arranged in many layers. Then the next one, stratified columnar, made up of actually columnar epithelial cells arranged in many layers. Then keratinized stratified squamous. The first one is stratified just cuboidal. The second one is stratified columnar epithelium. Strata, you know that what are the strata? Actually we have many layers of soils and earth. And likewise here the cells are arranged in many layers. Now the third one, keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. So here the squamous epithelial cells are arranged in many layers, but the outermost layer of cells or the uppermost layer of cells are dead in nature, and they are provided with the keratin, a kind of fibrous protein. Even in your palm you can see keratinized epithelium. So the palm region or the outermost skin layer is formed of keratinized squamous epithelium, formed of dead cells and lost their nuclei with the deposition of one substance, what is called keratin, fibrous protein. And in some cases, the fourth one, the keratin being absent, they are called non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Here the layer of cells are arranged one above the other. The outer surface of the cell normally made up of living cells, not the dead cells. For example, you have in your buccal cavity, squamous epithelium. And this is found in dry areas. This is found in dry areas. Keratinized stratified epithelium is found in dry areas, for example, the superficial layer of the skin. And the non-keratinized one is found in what we have the wet areas, for example, the buccal cavity, or in the case of vagina. So in such cases, we have actually that layer or the body lining, or we can say the cavity is being lined with non-keratinized stratified squamous, not made up of actually dead cells. We have all living cells, but here we have both the dead cells as well as living cells. Dead cells on the outer surface, living cells at the bottom. Then transitional epithelium. So I will give the notes for this one also later, but actually transitional epithelium is the one made up of cells. The cells are of different shapes. Some may be oval, some may be round, some may be columnar, and these cells are highly stretchable. Say an example, the case of urinary bladder. It is the one which is normally stretching or expanding while the urine is accumulated. So want to resist against the stretching. Normally when the bladder is inflating because it is being filled with urine, the epithelial cells are also stretchable. So it is stretching, so the bladder becomes larger. That is why we have different shapes, either round or oval or even columnar. Even some cells are cuboidal in nature. So that is called transitional. Okay, so it comes one by one in discussion later. Now this is a general classification. Here simple epithelium made up of one layer of cells and compound epithelium made up of many layers of cells. Now let's take the first one, simple epithelial tissues. I mentioned earlier the definition for that one. It's composed of a single layer of cells. It's composed of a single layer of cells. The cells are closely fitting with one another. No intercellular space. No space is being found between the cells. That means there is no matrix. There is no matrix or cementing substance between the cells. So normally in such cases, I will show the diagram later. The outer surface of the cell is free in nature. So one end is distal end which is free and may have cilia, may have some what is called microvilli like that structures according to the function. The lower end is normally resting on the basement membrane. So that is the nature. So one layer thickness, the cells are normally having one free end and the end is normally rested on the basement membrane. Now let's go to the time, what I just shown in the flow chart. So we have first one simple squamous epithelium. And this epithelium is just like what is called the tiles which is being paved on the pavement. So on the path, just like a tiles very thin actually the cells are. That is why it's also called as pavement epithelium. Simple epithelium, just actually simple squamous epithelium is also called pavement. The reason for that one, the cells are very thin and flattened. You see that one. So for each one you have to know the structure, the location and function. So structurally, the cells are very thin. For example, even if you are taking your skin, made up of many squamous epithelial cells, flat cells, the skin epidermis is made up of many layers. This is because of the thin nature of the cell, the flattened nature of the cell. As I given actually that like the tiles on the floor. And what is the shape of the cell? So they have either polygonal in shape or hexagonal in shape or in some cases irregular in shape. Polygonal, hexagonal, so many-sided or six-sided or irregular in outline. But the nucleus is normally very large. In the center you can have a very large nucleus. In the case of columnar cells you have the nucleus at the bottom. But here the cell is very thin. That is why the nucleus is found located in the geometrical center of the cell. So location. Now where are they found? So they are found in different areas. Normally we can see such a type of cells found in places where you have diffusion of, and the process mainly diffusion occurs. For example, the lungs, diffusion of gases from the lungs into the blood, from the blood into the lungs. And similarly in the kidney where you have the filtration process takes place to filter the urine from the blood, to filter the waste products to form urine. There also we have one structure in the unit what is called the nephron. There one structure what is known as the Bowman's capsule. So let's see now. I mentioned already the epithelial cells have originated either from ectoderm or endoderm or mesoderm. Now I will give just. So we have the corneal layer, the outer transparent layer of the eye. It has outer and inner layer. So the inner layer is actually the inner surface we can say. The outer surface is normally smooth enough. And the inner surface we have made up of many cells. The cells are one layer in thickness and that too it is ectodermal in origin. So the corneal epithelium, the outer transparent layer which is acting as a refractive surface for reaching the eye, for reaching up the light into the retina, and that is ectodermal in origin. So what is given in the bracket is nothing but the name of the germinal layer from which that actually that tissue has evolved. For example, the inner surface of the cornea of the eye, and that one is developed from the ectoderm. Now just the lining of the alveoli. I mentioned already it is found almost in places where we have the diffusion process as well as what is called the filtration process. So the alveoli are nothing but the unit of lungs and they are made up of actually a balloon-like structure. So that alveolus is made up of single layer of what is called squamous epithelial cells. Generally speaking, the respiratory organs like lungs as well as the lungs as well as what we have the gills in the case of aquatic animals, they have developed mainly from the endoderm. So whenever we have certain structure associated with the digestive system, most of the organs develop from the endoderm. So here is the lining of the alveoli, the single layer, the unit of lung function namely the air sac, and that is lined with what is called the endodermal lining made up of epithelial cell. Now that is a simple epithelium, only single layer. Then we have the tympanic membrane. So we have the eardrum, you know the sound is striking against it. So the inner layer of the tympanum or the inner surface we can see as in the case of cornea. The inner surface of the tympanum, the eardrum in human body or in the case of vertebrates is also actually formed from endodermal layer. It is also a kind of simple epithelium. Now the next one, parietal and visceral layers of coelomic epithelium. See, the body cavity is lined with a kind of epithelial cell, what is called peritoneum, also called as peritoneum, also called coelomic epithelium, called peritoneum, also called coelomic epithelium. So the coelomic epithelium forms the visceral layer and parietal layer. What is the meaning of parietal and visceral layers? If the layer of cells actually connected to the what is called the inner lining of the body wall, then it's called parietal layer. Then the layer normally surrounding the visceral organs, and the one which is facing the visceral body cavity is called as the visceral layer. Together called as a peritoneum and formed of single layer of coelomic epithelium derived from mesoderm. So normally the coelomic epithelium is found in the case of true coelomic animals. What we studied in the body cavity earlier, animal with a true body cavity are called eucoelomates. That means they have a body cavity. That true body cavity is called as a true only when that body cavity is lined with single layer of coelomic epithelium. You can recall that one what we studied earlier. Now, so they have different names. For example, the coelomic epithelium is also called peritoneum. The same layer of single layer of epithelial cells, the simple epithelium, lining the inner, what is called the blood vessels or the lymphatic vessels, either in the case of artery or in the case of veins or in the case of capillary. That is called endothelium. The word only different. The endothelium is nothing but the inner lining of simple epithelial cells of the blood vessels or the lymphatic system. That is normally mesoderm, because the circulatory system is of mesodermal in origin. That is why this epithelium is mesodermal in origin. Then I mentioned earlier the unit or the structural and functional units of kidney, namely the nephron. The nephron has one bag-like structure, a cup-like structure in which only the blood vessels get lodged, and that one is called as a woman's capsule. That is also made up of single layer of epithelial cells. That is why the filtration is possible easily. The blood vessel come to lie on the surface of the single layer of Bowman's capsule. The blood vessel capillary is also made up of single layer. So between the blood and the cavity, where the filter is normally formed, is formed of two layer thickness. One by the endothelium, namely the blood capillary. Another one that is a layer formed by the Bowman's capsule. So these are some of the examples where you have the simple epithelial cells actually formed, made up of single layer of cells. Mostly the simple squamous epithelial cells are found in places where you have the diffusion process as well as the filtration process occurs. One I mentioned already, for example, lining of the alveoli. The second one we have just in the Bowman's capsule. Now what is the role? So here is the diagram, the pavement epithelium. See that one, the structure more or less hexagonal or polygonal, some cases irregular in shape. Just like the tiles on a floor, the cells are arranged. That is why it's called as squamous epithelium or pavement epithelium. So the surface is always smooth, just like the tiles what you have on the floor. So it provides a smooth friction-free surface. Friction-free surface. The layer of cells normally smooth enough. So it normally, for example, the buccal cavity you have such layer is present. Then in also in the alveolus. So they provide what is called a friction-free surface that was smooth in nature. And also I mentioned already the function, diffusion of materials through it. Diffusion of materials through it. So mainly functions, even it is also protective. For example, the skin epidermis is made up of squamous epithelium. It protects the body against the loss of water. It prevents the loss of water, you know, that one by dehydration process from the body. That is also brought out by the squamous epithelium. So it provides two functions actually as per here given, but actually three functions. Protection also you can include. Provides friction-free surface and also responsible for diffusion, through which only actually the materials are being diffused or even filtered. Now the second type, simple cuboidal. So you know cuboid actually, normally cube, generally speaking, you know, they have 6 sides. And now the structure and appearance, they are 6-sided, but from the surface, when you are observing from the surface, they have normally polygonal or hexagonal in outline. But generally speaking, they are box-like structures having or looking like a cube or cuboid, and just having 6 sides. And that is why the name is given, simple cuboidal epithelium. It is called cuboidal epithelium based on the shape. It is called simple because it is made up of one layer of cells. Now the structure, what is it? The cells are cube shaped with a central spherical nucleus. The nucleus is not present at the bottom. So suppose it is pillar-like, we can say long enough, a box-like. The nucleus is located in the center. So totally cube shaped. If you are observing from above, then it is either polygonal or hexagonal in outline from the surface. Polygonal or hexagonal in outline from the surface. Where is it located? Wherever you have the glands, mainly for example the salivary glands. The salivary glands you have. The sweat glands. And also the smaller ducts of the salivary glands. And all these structures have developed from the ectoderm. So salivary glands, sweat glands, and the smaller ducts of the salivary glands. These are all the places. And all these structures have evolved or originated or developed from the ectoderm. Origin-wise ectoderm. Then location, normally the secretory activities where you have this is formed. Then number 2, the thyroid gland. So the thyroid is made up of many small vesicles are called follicles. Here I given this one is simply the smaller vesicles. Smaller vesicles, I will show the diagram. The vesicles are actually having a cavity. Such cavities are actually, such vesicles are called the follicles, simply called as thyroid follicles. I mentioned earlier, normally the endocrine glands have developed from the endoderm. So there is a lumen in the center and it is formed of single layer of cuboidal cells. That is why it is called cubical epithelium, also named. So thyroid follicles contain cuboidal epithelium. That is also one of the important questions you have to remember. What is the type of epithelium found in the case of thyroid follicle or thyroid vesicles? You have just a thyroid gland which is of endodermal in origin. And also we have the exocrine glands like liver and pancreas. In the case of these glands, we have their own ducts. They are actually exocrine glands because they have their own ducts, pancreatic duct or hepatic duct. These smaller, is not the main ducts, the smaller ducts of this one, that is maybe either the liver or the pancreas, also lined with the cuboidal epithelium. That is simple cuboidal, not stratified. Then, if you are taking the kidney, the unit of kidney, the functional structure is nothing but the nephron. So, the lining the proximal and distal connectives of the kidney, normally the nephrons are the structural units having a layer and just having structures like the first set of tubule, normally the proximal tubule and distal tubule, and both are lined with a single layer of cuboidal epithelium which is mesodermal. And in the case of ovary and testis also, they are lined with some kind of epithelium, what is called the germinal epithelium. They are responsible for the production of the gametes. They are also mesodermal. Then what is their function? Mainly increase the surface area of absorption in the kidney tubules. Increase the surface area of absorption in the kidney tubules. Now I will show the diagram only, the figure. The kidney tubules, the section. Let's see the picture. This is a single cuboidal epithelial cells. Now this one is the basement membrane and these are all the cells cubical in nature. We cannot see the cube nature here. And in between the cells we have the connective tissue. So this one, what we have the apical surface and this is the basal surface resting on a basement membrane. So in the actually reproductive tissues, they are concerned with the production of male and female gametes. Now in the kidney tubules, normally they are protective in function. In the gonads, they are concerned with the production of male and female gametes. So with this I conclude. I will proceed further the rest of the things in the next class. You are welcome to ask any questions, post your questions and just actually the chat. Thank you. The class is complete.